You're listening to Love is the Answer, a podcast that explores the power of love in real life, with your hosts, Lynn and Laurel Elstrom.
Welcome, everyone, to our podcast show today, Love is the Answer. And this is a podcast that explores the power of love in real life. And today you have your host, Laurel Elstrom, and myself, Lynn Kidd. So, Laurel, please tell us about our guests for this week.
Well, this is a great week for me because we're chatting with my good friend, Cindy Stroud. And while it's true that Cindy and her husband produced the Beyond Belief into Present series and the onewhowakes.org, the real reason we've invited Cindy on today is because I have noticed how supportive and empowering she is to the people in her life. And I've been thinking about friendship, and I thought it would be fun to pick her brain a little bit about relationship and what we sometimes call the way of Mary, because I feel like she embodies that.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to let everyone out there know about my heart-to-heart video series on YouTube. And this is a series where I interview readers and have conversations, those who are reading and experiencing A Course of Love. And we have a great time discussing my favorite topic, which is authentic dialogue and relationship. So that's Heart to Heart on our Course of Love YouTube channel.
Great. All right, let's bring in our guest, Cindy Stroud, my BFF and frequent partner in crime. Welcome to Love is the Answer, my friend.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you, Cindy, and we're very honored that you're joining us today. And we're going to begin with the first question that we ask all of our guests, which is, what does love mean to you?
Well, when I was considering this question, one of the things that I appreciated about how the question was framed is, what does love mean to you? And in the Course of Love, it talks about that love has no attributes. And whenever we attempt to define it, all we're actually doing is displaying what it means to us. So what love means to me is very simple and very complete. And if I were going to give it another word, I would probably use the word freedom, both in our human expression as well as in our spiritual being. We were created as an extension of God. And most people would say that God is love. So for me, the best expression that I can offer for love is an extension of the same freedom that I received in my creation of being. That's a freedom of expression that is has limitless range. And so when I'm trying to express myself with another being, I'm engaging in relationship with them in one way or another, how I would want to behave myself and what I would hope to allow them is their own expression, and that to be done without judgment of the form it takes, and to give the freedom and the space for that person to be fully in their expression. So, short answer. I could go on, but there's your short answer.
Wasn't that short? but it was good. I love it.
Very
that
good too.
Love is freedom, and when you love somebody else, you're giving them the freedom to express however they are. Which, yeah, that's a great definition. So that corresponds with when I think about how you're in relationship with your friends and your family. What it looks like from where I am is that you give your loved ones complete freedom, there's the word, to be as they are, but you also give them your energy and you really listen to what's important to them. So it's not just freedom, but you also give them your attention. Is that what is happening? And do you do that intentionally? How does that work?
For me, the word intention has a connotation that there's a choice, that there are many options available, and a being makes a choice as to how they wish to express, how they wish to be. And looking back over my life, what I've found is not so much a conscious choice, but more it's a cultivation of an innate quality. I remember as I was a kid that I grew up in a family with lots of talkers, and it was often difficult to get a word in. Now, as a child, that can be frustrating, but I've come to appreciate that what that cultivated in me was the ability to listen. Certainly, I'm having my own experience, but I had lots of opportunity to develop listening skills, if you will, and it suited me. It suited me to be in that capacity. And as I grew into adulthood and matured, I began to value even more that ability to listen without judgment, and to provide lots of time and space for people to express whatever was on their heart, whatever they were experiences they were participating in, to basically mirror back to them what they were showing, and also to be able to drop questions in, to engage in conversation which says, have you looked at it this way? How does this feel when that happens to you? What would you like to do with those feelings? If you could do something differently, what would you like to see? What would you like to do? But as time has passed, as I have become comfortable in my own being, I'm able to engage in relationship and conversation with people with no intent to make something out of it, no intent to change them or change their experience, no intent to make myself feel in a particular way. It's the opening of a neutral space in which an exchange can happen, a joining can happen. And so it's not actually intentional anymore, as in I set that as a plan beforehand. It's just a natural expression of how I see and feel myself to be.
Even as a child, you must have gotten some kind of payoff for being a good listener. What were the payoffs for you as a child?
Mostly how to manipulate my siblings.
Hey.
Yeah. Good,
Oh, sometimes
good,
really
good
it became a
answer.
learning it became a learning experience. Look
Yeah.
what's happening here. This doesn't seem to be a very comfortable outcome. I don't think I'm going to try that.
Yeah, I loved when you answered the first question about freedom. That really, really resonated with me. It's when you said you express love as freedom, to be absolute freedom to be who we are in this moment. And you're giving that to the other because you've also given it to yourself. And then you allow
Absolutely.
others permission to do the same. So that I just wanted to, reiterate that I really love that you said. And then my question, which you've already sort of tapped into, I just noticed that you've pretty much segued right into my next question was, what is the most important thing in your personal experience which fosters an authentic, trusting relationship, no matter what form the relationship takes?
I would say it's very important to me to recognize the sovereignty of the other individual, so that they're completely in charge of their own experience and their relationship with that experience. So whether they are simply in an observer role or whether they're actively engaged in it,
Mm-hmm.
their in charge of that, and they have the sovereign right to choose the form that that relationship takes. So that, I would say, would be the first thing, is that there's a recognition of that person's authority to have what experience they are having and to engage in it in the way that they choose. The other component would be safety, in that folks need to know that they are not only free to say what they want to say, but also that they're safe to say what they want to say. And the third component, I think, would be honesty. If you think you're safe, then you're more inclined to be honest. And it can be quite a gift to create the space in which someone can tell you those things that they are perhaps ashamed of, perhaps they think they shouldn't be feeling, to be able to say, you can tell me anything. You can tell me anything, it's fine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Laurel and I were kind of talking about that yesterday, about being a compassionate witness to someone and creating that safe space to be able to be completely honest. And yeah, I totally get that. And thank you for sharing that, to create that space.
So there's another side to that that I just wanted to bring out, that I know that you see and appreciate, actually, both of you, that not only is it a great gift to give to someone, to provide a safe space where they can be seen as they really are, it's also a great gift to receive, that you get to see who somebody really is, that you get to bear witness to somebody that's opening in that way. Would you agree with that, Cindy?
Oh yes, I think it's a great honor to be able to witness someone in the truth of their expression. And when you recognize the freedom that we all have in how we express, to me, it's both an honor and it's really a mystery and a delight. How would another being, my equal, choose to experience their life, their existence? So to me, it's endlessly fascinating, and I feel honored when someone chooses to share that part of themselves with me.
Nice. So in all this giving that you do, in all of this providing space for other people, do you ever feel like your own needs are neglected? Do you feel like your needs come last? And do you ever put yourself first?
I did spend a fair portion of this present incarnation feeling levels of resentment because, everybody else comes first. And then if there's time for me, if there's resources for me. So yes, I did have, I know the experience of living that way. I'm happy to say that's not what I experience now, in part because, I recognize the gift that is in that joining, but also I have learned a level of self-respect so that I'm unwilling to sacrifice what my own desires are, what my own needs are for expression. I am more comfortable saying no than I've ever been in my life. And the ironic thing about it is, because I'm comfortable to say that, I have to say it less often.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to stay tuned to something within yourself so that you can identify when you're giving too much?
No, I don't. But I would say I'm coming at it from a different angle, because that state of being of peace or giving, to me, it's not a thing that is to be accomplished. When I mentioned earlier that I'm very comfortable within myself, that also means that I by no means have to be perfect. I don't have to attain some kind of spiritual equanimity. Being comfortable within myself allows me to cuss like a pirate if I want, or to rant and rave. And I let that stuff just flow through. And when it's over, I usually have a really good laugh because I'll go, oh my gosh, look what she just did. How funny.
Oh God. Yeah. I have a friend that says compassion is in the boundaries that come is a fierce compassion. Sometimes it gets quite fierce. I love that, Cindy. But anyway, it's time now to turn toward the question of the week. So Cindy, please join us, me and Laurel and yourself. We're going to discuss something as our question of the week. So Laurel, do you have it for us?
I do. Here it is. Whenever I get with my family, they seem to see me in the same limited role they've pushed me into since childhood. When I'm with them, I'm able to overlook it, but later I catch myself feeling resentful and hurt all over again. How can love be the answer to the way my family treats me?
I would say there's great opportunity in this question. Because in the end, and in the beginning, I suppose, you are always the one who is in control of your own experience. So if your family is treating you in an old way that doesn't suit you anymore, you don't have to change them, but you can change what your experience of that is. In retrospect, you look at it and you begin to feel uncomfortable with that experience. You have multiple choices available. You can change your perspective and release those feelings of resentment or frustration. You can extend the very thing that you'd like to have for yourself. If you would like to have compassion, if you would like to be viewed in another way, then you can extend that to your family members. You can give them the gift that you would like to receive. And ironically, again, mysteriously, beautifully, in the giving of that to someone else, you are in fact giving it to yourself. You are receiving it as well. And I think that allows you to come to a peace, which allows your family members to behave in whatever fashion they want and leave you undisturbed. And in addition to whatever self-work you might want to do, you also can reach the point when you say, change is not likely to happen here, and so I will forego this relationship. And many people do end up saying, these family connections are not supportive for me, and they lessen them. Some people just walk away entirely. That's not to say it couldn't be picked up later at a different point where all those beings are at a different stage of their expression. But there are many choices available to how you might deal with that. And I would say they're all love. Whether you are in love with yourself and your own needs, whether you are extending an expression of love to those family members through your compassion, love is always the answer.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, Cindy. A lot of things came up for me, like being raised in this conservative Catholic background. And I had to go through that too, where I felt resentful about my culture and my parents and trying to be raised in this, strict religious background. And so, I finally did kind of make amends with it. And I realized that, no, it doesn't really matter what they're saying or what they're doing. I have a choice in how I show up in my experience. Absolutely what you were saying. 100% responsibility for how I show up in the experience. And it's my choice how I respond. So yeah, and so I felt more empowered as I went along, is when I was to more accept myself for who I am and be empowered in that moment. And then I came to love myself. And then, for now, it's like I meet them where they are. I just extend love, and it all seems to work out beyond the the culture. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something beyond the culture or whatever is happening when you extend that love. At some level, it all seems to work out. So I really appreciated your response. It really resonated. There's a line in the Course in Miracles, and it says, "Only what you have not given can be lacking in any situation." And that, I don't know, that just popped into my mind when you were speaking.
You know, some families are, you know, you share a story with your family. And a lot of times you share pain from that story, from that history with your family. And even your whole relationship is sort of based on the pain that you both experienced. It's like a mutual trauma that you went through. So what happens sometimes with families that have experienced trauma with each other is it's kind of like a tug of war kind of thing, or a push button kind of thing. Like, here, I'm going to push your button because I know just where it is, and I'm going to get a reaction out of you, and then you come back and you push my button. So it's kind of like and it seems when you're locked into those roles that you play with each other, it seems unchangeable. It seems really solid. What an opportunity, like you said, Cindy, to transcend your story, to transcend that painful trauma that you had. And of course, you can't take responsibility for changing your family member, but you can take responsibility for changing your own response to it. And I always like to say, if you're in a tug of war with somebody and you drop your end of the rope, eventually the other person isn't going to have anybody to play with. They're going to have to drop their end of the rope too. So I think the first thing to do in those situations is to just, give them what they want. They want to be seen and heard. They want you to love and accept them. That's what we all want from each other. And if you can give them that, if you can just, as you were talking before, provide that neutral space where you can just receive whatever it is they're saying. You don't have to agree with it. It's their perception of what happened. It's their perception of what's happening now. And if we can just show up for that and let them be heard in a way, at the same time we're giving it to ourselves. Because even if you distance yourself from your family, you internalize the hurt that you're carrying. That I don't have a family, or my sister doesn't treat me right, or whatever the story is, that's still there. And sometimes if you aren't ready to do the transcending, sometimes the distancing has to happen. But it's a much deeper healing process to actually just give that to them if you're able to. I'm reminded of a Buddhist practice when you're in a really difficult situation and it's really hard to offer kindness, is to have a word, a go-to word that you can just repeat internally, even if it's just kind, just to remind myself when I'm with that person who's going off on me.
I would add to that is that if it's a family dynamic there and it's based on pain or distrust or some other emotion or experience that is not self-supporting, as one member of the family, if you, being that one, make the changes which give you peace, you're providing a demonstration. And so those other family members who may have thought there was no way out can see that there is a different approach. There is a different way of being. And perhaps that's all they needed, was for the one to show there's another way of being. And if they're willing, they can begin to explore what is another way of being for them. And that's what healing's about.
It is.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah. And I have to, it causes me to invoke another Course in Miracles quote. In my defenselessness, my safety lies.
Amen. Beautiful. I wish we could go on, ladies, but we're kind of running up on time. So that's really all we have for today. Thanks so much for joining us, Cindy.
Pleasure.
It's just such an honor to our listeners out there, our next guest in 2 weeks will be Christina Strutt. So that's 2 weeks with Christina Strutt. She's been with the ACOL community for a long time. And we'll be talking about living love during difficult times.
Love is the Answer is sponsored in part by acourseoflove.org. On that website, you'll be able to download the first 26 chapters of A Course of Love for free. You can find out about ongoing Zoom groups, and you can learn about other resources. That's acourseoflove.org.
And also for our listeners out there, if you have any questions that come up or any kind of issues or problems that are arising, please send your questions to loveisalwaystheanswer@gmail.com. That's loveisalwaystheanswer@gmail.com, and we will promise we will get to them. So thanks everyone for joining us today on Love is the Answer. We really do love you.
We really do.